It's live with you with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, back at the studio after being on the road all week last week for the Chicago Democratic National Convention. And we've got a lot to tackle today. Of course, we'll review a lot of what was said at the convention heading into the final few months here of the election before the November 5th general election. But Friday, there was some news dropped. The Illinois Supreme Court dismissing a state appeal of a lawsuit that was brought by Republicans getting kicked off the ballot because of an election year law that Governor J.B. Pritzker signed in a hasty fashion. So we'll review that. We'll also talk with Senate Minority Leader John Curran coming up as well. And we'll touch base with independent Chicago reporter William Kelly. So that's just some of what's coming up here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell with America's Talking Network, and stay up to date with the Center Square. Go to thecentersquare.com and go to the Illinois page, and you can sign up for the daily newsletter there as well. Good morning to all those joining the live chat here. Of course, each and every weekday morning, back at it, and we'll get right into it here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, so be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we'll have a lot more coming up right here with Illinois in Focus Daily.
To elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, President, Vice President of the United States.
President Biden did a brave, courageous, and patriotic thing and passed the torch to a new generation. And we're here to support the new ticket, and we're grateful for his service and for his sacrifice.
Senate President Don Harmon, on the day after President Joe Biden got in front of the Democratic National Convention in Chicago last week, talking about getting ready to vote for Kamala Harris. Of course, Biden since has been on vacation. A lot of criticism for the Biden-Harris administration as to people questioning who's exactly running the country if Biden's on another vacation and Harris is out campaigning. All of this being a last-minute switch where you've got the President of the United States having said that he is running time and again. Even after the debate performance, he pushed back and said he's running. And only God coming down telling him not to run would be what got him not to run. But regardless, he did step down from the race. Kamala Harris stepping in, and some interesting things said during the Democratic National Convention. Welcome back. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Each and every weekday morning, wake up with us here with Illinois in Focus Daily. So last week, we were on the ground for the Democratic National Convention, taking in the Democrats' breakfast, all the Illinois delegation getting together each morning for the breakfast. But we also had an opportunity to interview various key players within Illinois' delegation about a variety of things. But during some of the breakfast conversations, a lot of talk about Trump, but also earlier on in the week, a lot of praise for President Biden. Here's Senator Tammy Duckworth comparing Biden to previous presidents.
What Joe Biden has done is what George Washington did, stepped away from the halls of power for the good of the nation. He was energized. On Friday when I saw him, he's about getting his agenda across the finish line in the time that he has left, and I think he's going to be even more active post-presidency with getting many of his agenda done. So yes, we're going to celebrate his achievements, but I think for me, he's going to be like a Jimmy Carter with this great work that he's going to continue past the presidency. So he was just upbeat and energized on Friday.
So a couple of comparisons there to George Washington and Jimmy Carter, and you even had other Democrats compare him to FDR. I talked with Democratic State Representative Maurice West earlier in the week, last week, from the convention hall, and he shared with us his thoughts on that big switch.
Well, leading up to it, I was focused on staying with Biden. Doing what I can to help him out, and then when he made that transition, and the way he did it, it just made me say thank you, sir, because I was kind of concerned if it was going to be chaotic this week, if people were going to feel a certain way, but all you feel, at least from yesterday, and I've been here since Sunday, is energy and joy and people excited, and is mobilizing and convening the party back together for one cause, which is for us to make sure that we vote for Kamala Harris and bring her into the White House. So things just shifted so quickly, and yeah, it's been a ride.
Now, one thing that hasn't shifted is the Democrats' theme of bashing Donald Trump, the Republican presidential nominee. And they called him a convicted felon, a racist, a misogynist. Well, I asked Attorney General Kwame Raoul later in the week last week if that's characterizing half the country as racist and misogynist because they support Trump.
I think he's hijacked the Republican Party. And I have Republicans who are friends. I'm a Democrat. I've been a loyal Democrat for years, but I've worked with Republicans, but not Republicans like Donald Trump. I know plenty of Republicans who are for Kamala Harris because their party has been hijacked. So I don't think anybody up here is characterizing every Republican in the nation. There are Republican union members. Nobody up here is characterizing those individuals as misogynist and racist.
Again, Attorney General Raoul saying that they're not characterizing half the country. They're just characterizing Trump because of the words that came out of Trump's mouth. Outside of the convention, I connected with several Republicans vying for the State House. One, Frederick Walz in the Chicago area. I asked him, as a black man supporting Donald Trump, what he's hearing from people that he interacts with on a daily basis who could be his constituents.
Well, a lot of you have some older people that that may say, well, he's racist, and I say, well, just prove it, and then they can't prove it. So then I educate them on Donald Trump. I say, well, do you personally know him, and what has he personally done to you? And they can't say anything. I said, so all you know about him is what the media have showed you. So then I showed them media clips of like when for instance, when Jesse Jackson was running for president, he helped Jesse Jackson out. You know what I'm saying? He was never what the media is portraying him to be. And so, they have their different opinions, but you just have to educate them. And then I educate them on just being a conservative, a Republican. The Republican Party was founded to abolish slavery. Everything about the Republican Party was helping black people. In fact, Lyndon Johnson takes credit for the Civil Rights Act, but the Republican Party was in Congress. They had a two-thirds vote to push through a Democrat Senate filibuster. So it was actually the Republicans were always looking out for the black community, but a lot of people are just not educated. The only reason that black people really vote for the Democrats is because when Kennedy was in jail, someone in his family called King's wife, and when they got him out of jail, that was the Mickey in the drink. That was the Kool-Aid.
So again, Frederick Walz sharing his thoughts on how he talks to some voters out there who might think that Trump's a racist. But of course, all of this going on inside the convention hall, just outside the convention hall, you had protesters outside that were protesting the war in Gaza, Israel's position, clashes with police, a lot of show of police force all across the convention.
Quite the same, because I actually think this is more excitement than even Obama had. Having been in Arizona when I started my political career, it's incredible how much has changed in just the last few weeks, and I think the palpable sense of excitement that we're getting, not just from Democrats, but from Republicans and independents.
So Daniel Hernandez from Arizona saying that he just sees a lot of joy out there. I also talked with a Washington State delegate, Andrew Ashiofu, who talked about what he thinks is going to be some of the issues capturing independent and moderate voters to be Democrats.
I think one of the main things is Project 2025. The message we should send out there is Project 2025 is un-American. It's not something we need. And I think the more we talk to people about what's in those pages of Project 2025, the more we could get undecided voters to ourselves. Also, reaching out to these undecided voters from an area of empathy, understanding that people care about their family, people care about people care about treating people like humans, not calling people names, not being condescending to people, and most especially, we are all in this together.
So again, just a couple of voices from outside of Illinois sharing some of their thoughts, and he mentions Project 2025. That was something that Democrats brought out on the stage quite a bit, and they mentioned that almost as much as they mentioned Trump's name. Not nearly as much, but still, regardless of Trump distancing himself from Project 2025. But what about some of the other issues out there? Of course, joy and excitement, but the pocketbook issues, kitchen table issues, the economic issues. We had a pretty significant, adjustment in the number of jobs created, being adjusted downward, more than 800,000. Apparently, that hasn't happened since 2007. And what that means is the Biden administration had announced, hey, we created X number of jobs one week. And that was the preliminary number. But then a week or so later, next reporting period, they have to adjust that. More than 800,000 jobs fewer, while inflation continues elevated, while you've got the energy prices continuing to be elevated and a whole host of other things crunching people's pocketbooks. I was able to talk with Illinois House Speaker Chris Welch, and he talked about the economic issues.
Well, I think the best approach is to continue moving forward. You can't go backward. We have to remember that the reason the economy was in shambles is because former President Trump totally mishandled the COVID situation. And we're still recovering from that. It took Joe Biden and Vice President Harris to renew America, to get us on the right path. Unprecedented job growth, infrastructure, bringing inflation down. But there's still a long way to go. We need to go forward. We don't need to roll back those policies. We don't need to go backward to any of the policies that Trump proposes. We need to continue moving forward, continue with stability and some new ideas along the way. And I think we're going to continue to see great things happen in this country.
Others I talked to from Illinois includes Marcus Evans, state representative from the Chicago area, and he also expressed what he thinks is some of the economic issues that Democrats need to focus on.
I think the great Governor Stratton years ago said that good government is good politics, and that is something we have to focus on. Are we producing for the everyday people? And I think sometimes previous administrations have focused on businesses only or the very rich, or hopefully that the trickle-down economics will come. We have to target things and help the everyday people. We got to make sure folks have enough money when they go to work. We got to make sure businesses are sustained. And I think the Democrats are talking about more than that. It's just that those things have advocacy groups that are talking. But if you go to any Democratic, agenda and focus, we're talking about economics. We don't want people taxed out of their businesses, because a lot of small businesses are LLCs, sole proprietorships, and they deal in their personal taxes. We don't want people overtaxed. We want people properly taxed. We don't want a lot of homelessness, right? Because they stand outside of businesses, right? We want people to have somewhere to go to be stabilized so they can participate in the economy. So I think we're saying the same things, but sometimes people try to take the little pieces there to create confusion. Many of the things on our platform is about businesses, stabilizing business, giving them what? Customers and sustaining customers. And if you don't have any money, it's going to be hard to support a local business.
So he wants people to be properly taxed, not overtaxed. But all this happening in Illinois, in Chicago, which has the second highest property taxes, the second highest gas taxes, got excise taxes in the city of Chicago. I mean, the amount you pay for gas in Chicago is close to $5, even in the suburbs, $4.50 plus, let alone extra taxes on things like cigarettes. And you also have the ongoing migrant issue, where I asked Comptroller Shoshana Mendoza to address that, especially those who are still frustrated. Yes, the headlines didn't materialize of more non-citizen migrants being bused to Chicago during the convention, but there's still 45,000 more non-citizen migrants costing Illinois taxpayers $1 billion plus. And Comptroller Mendoza said to those who are frustrated with the people who are here taking those resources.
Yeah, I would say vote Democrat. Vote Democrat, because we're taking care of business. I mean, it wasn't the Republicans who delivered the less influx of migrants coming in. That was Joe Biden. And if we win control, here's the thing too, that I've said this many times as controller. I'm not happy about spending a ton of money on a migrant issue that I believe is a responsibility of the federal government to pay for, right? So if they're going to allow people into this country, which we welcome that and they welcome them, then help the states that they're sending them to be able to afford that care. We want to provide responsible, really conscientious, humane care to our immigrants or refugees that are coming in.
But she also talked about how they need to be given work permits so that they aren't just taking tax dollars, they're contributing to the tax base. I connected with Republican Leslie Collazo. She is running as a Republican for the State House in Chicago, and she said her constituents are frustrated.
They feel betrayed because they feel that a lot of the resources that could have come to them as American citizens are now being allocated to kids and families that have crossed at the southern border and were sent here to our sanctuary city and given access and seats to schools. So they feel really betrayed by that, and they're speaking up and they're super frustrated. So those are the conversations that I'm having with people in my district.
We'll obviously hear a lot more about all of these issues and more as we've got just 70 some odd days before the election. And what are those issues really going to be? So we'll find all of that out and keep you posted here with Illinois in Focus Daily each and every weekday morning. I'm Greg Bishop here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell for America's Talking Network and the Center Square.
But as I understand, this is actually an ethics bill. It really does make sure that we don't have backroom deals to put people on the ballot and run as a result of some small group of people in a smoke-filled room making the choice. So I think, to me, more transparency is better.
What's interesting is that I was a slated candidate, similar to Kamala Harris. And I don't understand why it was such a problem for me to try to get on the ballot, but then they go ahead and try to just shove this candidate in our face for president in 2024.
Governor J.B. Pritzker, followed by Leslie Collazo, talking about the slating of candidates. And if you recall, this measure that passed the State House in the matter of 2 days and the governor signing it within 3 days prohibited individuals who did not run in the primary from getting on the November general election ballots. Now, it didn't do this for future elections. It did this in the middle of an election year, and Republicans took that to court in Sangamon County, and it was found unconstitutional. And then you had the Democrats appeal directly to the Illinois Supreme Court. Well, Friday, on a Friday news dump, the Illinois Supreme Court says 2 justices recused themselves. The other 4 couldn't make a decision, so it was deadlocked, and ultimately that led to the Democrats' appeal of the lower court ruling it unconstitutional being tossed. So that's not going to go into effect this year. To react to that is Senate Minority Leader John Curran. He joins us now here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Senator, thanks for taking time with us this morning. You put out a statement saying, yet again, Governor Pritzker has signed an unconstitutional and partisan bill. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, Greg, it is amazing just they're constantly looking for more and more power with supermajorities, with every statewide office held by Democrats. They still were trying to game the system, change the rules while candidates were out there collecting signatures, had already been slated following the current law, and they tried to cut it off, and only for legislative offices. And why is that? Because they don't believe voters should have choice. At the end of the day, that's why they gerrymandered the maps. That's why and it's the most gerrymandered, partisan drawn map in the country. because they don't want voters to actually have choice. So, it's just another display of hypocrisy on the part of Governor Pritzker and his legislative Democratic allies. And it's not lost on me, Greg. A couple months later, after they passed that law, when they said party bosses shouldn't be picking candidates, what did they participate in? Party bosses at the DNC selecting their presidential candidate. And not one of them recused themselves to say, out of consistency based upon what we did in Illinois, I'm not going to participate in this. Not at all. They rushed to participate in the party bosses slating the current vice president.
And Governor Pritzker, in that clip we played to open the segment, he was asked about this right before the Senate passed it, but he said, this isn't an election bill, it's an ethics bill. And he said that, we shouldn't have people in smoke-filled rooms making the decisions as to who people have choices for. But he signed this bill, and it became law, challenged, found unconstitutional just for this year, though. Is that your understanding that next year or the next election cycle, slating is not going to be a thing?
For legislative districts only, and that's fine. Set the rules before the election cycle starts and then stick to them. And then candidates can follow those rules. Local, political organizations can follow those rules. It is noteworthy that this still only applies to legislative districts. So Governor Pritzker, while he thinks it's an ethics issue, has no problem with slating of candidates for county races or any other type of race. It's just specifically legislative, but that's fine. It's fair to start at the beginning of the process. What we objected to was changing the process, changing the rules in the middle of the election cycle.
Senator, this, of course, is just one of several bills that have been challenged. Governor Pritzker recently signed. Talk about, I guess, some of the other ones that have already been essentially, put on hold as not being enforced. You've got one that deals with crisis pregnancy centers, for instance. Is this showing a pattern of sorts of the Democrat-controlled legislature passing things that courts are saying you can't do this?
It absolutely is a pattern. And this is, again, it's about power. This is not at all about good government or fairness or empowering voters or empowering the citizens of Illinois. It is the opposite. So, the partisan power, he's the most partisan governor in the country, is constantly on display. Thankfully, we've had some court rulings that have pushed back on the governor's partisan overreach, and I believe that's going to continue. And there's more challenges in the pipeline.
Senate Minority Leader John Curran with us. A couple other things I want to touch base with you on. Of course, last week was the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Big showing, big produced show. We didn't get Beyonce, though. Apparently, that was rumored all throughout the last day. Didn't happen. Your thoughts, your takeaway from the 4 days of Democrats rallying in Chicago?
Well, I mean, look, the governor certainly knows how to throw a party, and it was, it was a spectacle on display in Chicago. First and foremost, I took a day to go visit the Chicago police officers that were working overtime to make sure that the city was safe. Everyone visiting the city was safe. They did a tremendous job. So first and foremost, we should really thank law enforcement. And isn't it a great example when law enforcement is supported all the way from the governor to the mayor to every elected official in Chicago, when they're actually supporting their law enforcement officials? What a great, fantastic job that those men and women in police uniforms did for the city. Beyond that, Greg, I got to tell you, I was just amazed at the disconnect between the governor's speech. That's what I found most interesting, and his actual record. He talked about being for lower taxes, and a few short months earlier, he passed $1 billion in tax increases on Illinois residents and businesses. So it was really a disconnected speech.
Senator, you've also got the election here in 70 some odd days. We just talked about that bill that was found unconstitutional, ultimately saying, hey, there's going to be the possibility of some choice in districts, including the Chicago area, where people didn't run in a primary, but Republicans in those areas did slate candidates. What's the party's plan moving forward? I've talked to several Republicans from the Chicagoland area, and one in particular says, hey, we need the party to put resources into these districts. Is that going to happen?
No, I think the Republican Party right now is in a growth phase, and the city of Chicago, Cook County, this is an area where we are growing more of a presence. We need to. That work is ongoing right now. What you're going to see in future elections is, more resources put into actually getting candidates on the ballot for the primary rather than using the mechanism that is going to be expiring after this election cycle. So, but absolutely, I represent a portion of Cook County, and that part of my district and the surrounding areas, voters are moving towards us. They have had enough of the constant corruption in Cook County and the city of Chicago, all run by Democrats, and that is pushing them towards the Republican Party. What we have to do is make sure that we continue to operate as a big tent and pull these people in. Don't push them away, pull them in, and that's ongoing.
Talking with Senate Minority Leader John Curran here with America's Talking Network and Illinois in Focus Daily. Finally, you've got veto session after the election. Anything top of mind you think that you guys need to tackle when you head back to Springfield?
Well, I think it's not just going to be veto session, Greg. Obviously, with supermajority Democratic legislatures and a Democratic governor, there's not a lot of bills that actually get vetoed. But I would fully expect we're also going to be back in January in what's historically called a lame duck session. And that is where, in my time, what I would say the worst of the legislative proposals have been jammed through on purely partisan roll calls and with very little sunshine. So, we're getting prepared for fall veto. Nothing really comes top of mind. The budget is going to, obviously, there was a lot done in the budget in terms of, retailers and financial institutions, and those groups are certainly talking to us about some relief from what happened to them in May. I don't know if any of that's going to see the light of day in veto.
Senate Minority Leader John Curran, greatly appreciate you taking the time with us. Other issues. Be safe out there, and we'll talk soon, all right?
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate it.
All right. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, and be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell with us each and every weekday morning. Again, thanks to Leader Curran for joining us. And much more coming up here as you've got Illinois in Focus Daily. The National Democratic Convention over in Chicago, and a big show. No Beyonce, though, despite rumors, but a lot of excitement, a lot of production, a lot of featured guests. But what was happening outside? We got protests, and we've got even some Republicans that were hitting the streets trolling the DNC. That's just some of what was going on. To talk about what he saw on the ground, joining us by phone is independent Chicago reporter William Kelly. William, thanks for taking time with us this morning. We didn't get a chance to connect while I was in Chicago, just extremely busy all over the place, but glad that we're able to connect now. Give us your thoughts. How was the DNC?
Oof. Well, God bless you, Greg. And, we've survived yet another another massive crime, another massive lie. 75 million tax dollars were spent on security for the DNC. And what I haven't really heard anyone say out loud, certainly in the mainstream media, is that a total of 76 Chicagoans were shot during the DNC week. A total homicide, deaths, killed, fatalities, 20 people died. Okay. But I don't know if you've been hearing the applause all the way down in Springfield, but Mayor Johnson has been taking victory laps around town, around and around and around, saying that Chicago is the safest city, has now been proven to be the safest city in the world, when the statistics show that Chicago is the murder capital of the country. Greg?
William, clearly, the initial stories were that businesses were going to have a great time with the DNC, but then as we heard getting closer to the DNC, a lot of businesses were worried they were being squeezed out during the 4 days. Even had some businesses went ahead and boarded up their facilities. What did you hear from businesses? Was it a good week or a slow week?
Well, downtown businesses haven't recovered from the lockdown looting of 2020. So, I suppose, hope springs eternal, at least in the handful of businesses that are still operating in downtown Chicago. I don't know if you had a chance to do kind of a drive around even the block or two that Chicago City Hall is on. The most, in my opinion, growing up anyway in Chicago, the highest, most high-status real estate for anyone to have an office or a business. LaSalle Street, right? Chicago's Wall Street. I'm shocked to this day to see back-to-back vacancies. Okay, street-level vacancies of real estate that used to be considered if you were an attorney, if you were in financial or even retail or anything. But, so any convention in theory is good business, right? If nothing else, somebody runs out and buys a sandwich from you, right? Well, apparently there was none of that during the DNC. In fact, many businesses told their employees to stay home. Okay, many businesses boarded up, I guess, if you're in the plywood business, one party rule is actually somehow good for you. But the truth of the matter is that restaurants, straight up, and you would think, Greg, that restaurants would be the big winners here, that everyone from all over the country, all of these delegates would come to Chicago, and boy, oh boy, they can't wait to get out and enjoy the Chicago restaurants. Well, supposedly, according to all accounts, according to just firsthand accounts from restaurant owners, that it was a ghost town. It cost them, 60 to 70% of their lunch business, these fences, oddly, that were put up to keep protesters out. Also, although Democrats say that fences don't work on the border, bizarrely, but yet we had, 3 level high security fences around the water tower, in downtown Chicago, which is like 5 miles from the actual convention site, convention United Center. But these walls or fences that the Democrats put up to keep.
William, I think we losing your signal a bit there. Are you still with us? William Kelly, still with us. Oh, it looks like we lost his signal. That's what you get for having a live conversation here with Illinois in Focus Daily. We'll see if we can connect with him again here. Let me just pull this up and give it a call, because it's good to hear his perspective. And if you follow William on social media, you saw some of his on-the-street reporting and how he approached a variety of Democrat officials going into the convention hall. William, you back with us?
I am indeed. Sorry.
Right.
God bless you.
No sweat. No, it's live radio here. So talk a bit about the conversations you had with individuals who were heading into the convention. I think you approached James Carville in one instance.
Well, interestingly, it was completely random, like most of the things that happened to me, Greg. I was, just walking along the security fences, getting footage of, what, as a lifelong Chicagoan, someone who loves Chicago with all of his heart, breaks my heart, Greg, again and again and again. I don't know how my heart keeps beating here. We have, these security fences around the water tower, and I'm talking about, the historic water tower, and not the empty, shopping center, but the historic water tower, which you would think that's the whole point of why people would come to Chicago for a convention, would be so that they could go see the water tower. But at any rate, I'm walking around the water tower, getting footage of the fences upon fences upon fences. And who do I bump into but James Carville? And I'm walking, talking to James, and he's mad at me, telling me that crime is down in Chicago, when the fact of the matter is that 76 people were shot during convention week. 30 people were just shot over the weekend. And yet he was telling me that he felt safe. Well, of course he did, Greg. He's behind 3 high security fences as he ducks into RL for lunch.
William, the other story on the street was protests. And Monday night,
Right.
There were some protesters, but it seemed that Tuesday night was where there was a heavy amount of protesters and even clashes with police. Talk a bit about that. Were police, did they handle that appropriately? Was the protests, did they turn out as much as maybe was led to believe leading into the convention? How did that all play out?
Well, as anyone who knows me knows, I never consider the police to be the problem. If anything, it's the Cook County State's Attorney, the Cook County Sheriff, who are all too eager to follow Governor Pritzker's no cash bail Safety Act law. They're the ones who are the problem. I guess you could throw the judges in there too, by the way, bizarrely, in Cook County. But no, it's not. The police have never been the problem in Chicago. Let's get that, in my opinion. Okay, but what was a little, I think, interesting, I guess, if you really want a unique headline out of the DNC, is that it was predicted that there would be 100,000 protesters, and Mayor Johnson, who considers himself to be a protester, said that he had the cell phone numbers of the protest organizers. He contacted them, and deals were made. So, I walked up to Superintendent Snelling, who by all counts is a great guy, and I can attest he's been very open and fair with me. And I interviewed him on Michigan Avenue, and I asked him what deals has the mayor cut with the protesters, and do any of them involve stand-down orders for the CPD? And Superintendent Snelling, and I have this all on camera, obviously, at William J. Kelly on X if you want to check it out, would not answer the question. We can only suspect that the reason why the protests did not go away the way they were predicted was because of deals that were cut. Now, Greg, somebody might say, oh, isn't that great? The mayor of Chicago cut deals with protesters not to protest. Well, sends a little bit of a chill up my spine, having survived 2020 and seen the lockdowns and the looting of 2020. If a mayor can cut deals, if a Democrat, if an elected official can cut deals with protesters not to protest, he or she can also cut deals to flip the switch to have them protest, Greg. So this is I don't know, pick your poison.
William Kelly, independent reporter in Chicago. Always appreciate hearing your perspective, and we'll definitely connect again in the near future to talk about the election and what you're hearing on the ground in Chicago and so much more. So be safe out there, all right?
God bless you, Greg. Thank you.
All right, it's Illinois in Focus Daily. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell each and every weekday morning here with America's Talking Network. All right, much appreciated. All those in the live chat, some getting in there, and if you want to take part in that conversation with the live chat, catch the show each and every weekday morning, beginning at 8 o'clock. Now, I know when I was on the road in Chicago, we tried doing some live shows and some connectivity issues got in the way, so we just recorded those and got those out to you each and every weekday morning. But back here live each and every weekday morning with America's Talking Network. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Get the newsletter from thecentersquare.com and email me, gbishop@ilnews.org, gbishop@ilnews.org. And quick programming note, I got to go on vacation. All right, so Thursday and Friday, I'm off, and then I'm off all next week into the early part of the following week. So we're gonna take a step back, refresh after the conventions that we just covered with the RNC and the DNC, and we'll be back for the long stretch before the November 5th general election. So again, I wanted to pass that programming note on to you. But you can get Illinois in Focus daily on podcast, anywhere you get your podcasts. Wake up each and every weekday morning here with America's Talking Network, and get the clips at America's Talking Network on YouTube as well. A lot of news clips there, a lot of what we collect and disseminate to you. So be sure to track all of that and more. All right. So appreciate you guys being here. And just a preview. All right. We've also got next month a lot of big things happening. We've got some Illinois Supreme Court cases we'll be tracking, including Jussie Smollett, how that's going to work out. Also, you've got the Southern District of Illinois Federal Court that's set to hear the challenge against Illinois' gun ban. So I do plan on going down to East St. Louis for that, and we'll have a lot more to report on all of that as the state's gun ban being challenged in the Southern District before it was expected to go to the appeals court and possibly up to the U.S. Supreme Court, depending on the trajectory of other cases there. So a lot going on. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell here with America's Talking Network. I'm Greg Bishop. Thank you so much for being part of the program, and for those in the live chat taking part in conversations with each other. I don't take as many questions from the chat room as I used to with Bishop on Air. It's kind of difficult to juggle all the live guests coming in, all of the news clips coming in, as we, of course, broadcast from the home base for Illinois in Focus Daily. After being on the road all last week in Chicago, it's good to be back with all the equipment and being able to give you that program each and every weekday morning. I got to get out of here and get the day going. We'll see you tomorrow here with Illinois in Focus Daily.